The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not representative of the opinions and doctrine of Morris Community Church. We reserve the right to change our minds, and we reserve the right to be wrong. Welcome to the Roasted Christian Podcast. I'm Bobby.
And I'm John. Here at the Roasted Christian, we like our ideas the way we like our coffee. Roasted.
And we have Dan.
And we have Dan.
What's up?
Dan says hi. We're digging deep with Dan again today. I think you're going to be a staple since you're 3 for 3 on seasons with RCP. What are we going to talk about with Dan in the Fresh Roast today? It was a big question. We asked him, what do you want to talk about? And then we get this short novel.
Right. Right.
Because only in 2017 is like a paragraph or two a novel.
It is, because I don't want to read that much. Who likes reading?
Dude, this is long form content.
Yeah.
It's like 45 minutes.
That's true.
But it's not reading.
But you're listening. Exactly. But you're listening.
You can do your dishes.
Yeah. No, we're going to talk about essentially the pursuits of life. It's kind of a way to frame it, what you
that's part of it.
Yeah.
Fake problems.
Fake problems.
We've got a fake news problem. Do we have a fake problem?
Fake life problem. So we're going to talk about that. John's got some chit-chat for us, but for coffee, get this out of the way. So last week I shared a video with some French press tips. Mm-hmm. And so I just so happened to find another video, but very different French press technique. And one of the differences was lots of times, I think you've seen it, John. You get your water very hot, just under boiling, but then you pour it over your coffee for 4 minutes, right? Push the plunger down, pour it in, voila, French press.
Wait, what? Pour it out?
Yeah, you push the plunger down, you pour out your coffee to go into your cup.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you meant pour in the water after you plunged it. And I was like, what?
No.
Okay, I got you.
Pour in the very hot water, sit for 4 minutes, plunge it down, pour out your coffee.
Well, stir occasionally.
Okay, you're a stir occasionally guy. Okay. This one said, let it sit for 4 minutes, stir the top, remove some of the sediments, and let it sit for another 5 minutes.
What?
Then put the strainer on top and let it just stay there as a strainer. Don't plunge it all the way down. Use it as a method of filtering out any of the grounds, and so that way you get a much cleaner cup and with no sludge and junk in your
Because you're
fresh
not forcing stuff through.
Because you're not forcing stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, ooh. So next week,
aesthetically, I feel like it would look goofy, but so what?
Yeah, next week I'm gonna French press the both styles for you. And you're going to tell me which one you like better.
Okay, so is the extra...
And I actually French pressed this stuff. Is this...
This is pretty good.
It wasn't that bad.
Is the extra 5 minutes because you don't push all the way down?
The extra 5 minutes is because you get the water boiling. You pour it in.
Oh.
And the idea is it's too hot to drink yet. So you let the stuff continue to work itself.
I mean, the proof will be in the actual pudding when I try it, but that sounds like two wrongs trying to make it right.
So you are drinking...
Because boiling water is too much, too hot.
You're drinking French press that was made with boiling water.
Okay. It seems like it's too hot.
Yeah.
And that, 9 minutes of seepage or steepage is, I think, excessive.
Bean seepage?
But yeah, bean seepage.
It's just under. It is. So I got to on my hot pot, as hot as it's going, boom, it auto shuts off, and it's almost right at boiling. And then even letting it sit for 30 seconds, it was down to 205.
Which is not boiling.
Yeah.
So you're not putting boiling water on the coffee.
Yeah,
which is an important distinction.
By only 7 degrees though. Yeah.
That's still important.
You think that's
important.
Major significance?
Well, because the temperature is the difference. If it's not boiling, it's not boiling. So if it's 205 instead of 212, then it's not boiling.
So this was at 205.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would be curious to literally like put coffee into boiling water and see how bad it is. Because like if
maybe that will be number 3.
If you've ever had like campfire coffee where you literally get it boiling, it's no good.
All right, so that'll be the test for next week. You'll have 3 different types.
Okay.
The French press normal, or technique number 1 that we got from last week. Mm-hmm. Technique number 2 that we got from this week. John's technique, but with boiling water. So I'll make sure to stir occasionally for the 4 minutes.
Yep.
Plunge it, but it was boiling water when it went in.
And Bobby's just going to pee in the 4th cup.
Right.
Yeah, 4th cup, Bobby
See
press.
See if I can notice.
So try those tips out, listeners, of which one you like best. And also I tried to do the golden ratio from last week of 1 gram of water to 17 grams of grounds.
So you're using like a
I used a weighted scale and everything to I know. Which actually, it makes a lot of sense. Because then I know exactly how much I'm putting in every time, and it's consistent. Mm-hmm. You're like, you don't like that much structure, Dan? Like, you have this face of like, why would I want that? Just pour it in and go.
Yeah, but if it matters to you, then it might be worth it.
I mean, I generally avoid French press simply for that, like, because it takes a certain level of precision, I feel like, to get it right.
Yeah.
I just want coffee as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So most days I will just use the percolator, and it's fine.
So I got Whitney a little bit bigger French press that can handle like a full thermos and some. So it filled up my thermos, and I had a cup of coffee left. I was like, ooh, yeah, this is good. And because Whitney will make in the mornings, if she makes coffee, she uses the whole like 12 cupper, your standard Mr. Coffee percolator.
Drink it all.
And doesn't drink it all. That's the thing, is it's like
it's
too much coffee for especially for a busy stay-at-home mom. Right. She gets like half a cup. I actually been taking. So secretly, Whitney, if you actually are listening to this episode, I have been taking pictures over the last 6 months of coffee cups around the house that haven't been fully drank to like put a collage up of like what it's like to be a stay-at-home mom. It's like the staple picture of being a busy stay-at-home mom is you don't get to finish your coffee.
But isn't that nice then to have the full 12 cup thing, because then you can you get back to your coffee. It's
like
cold. You dump it out.
She gets to heat it up, but then you're microwaving coffee, and it's just not the same. It's not quite the same. So I got her the French press, so that way it's a good 2 cups worth of coffee, 2 full, like mugs. I would say not cups, but mugs of coffee. So if she gets to it, then there's not like way old coffee for the next day to drink. She will have the next, she can make another French press, and it'll still be fairly fresh that day. So that was the goal.
Makes me think of No Country for Old Men. When Tommy Lee Jones goes and visits the old guy, like with a billion cats running around, and he's like, how fresh is this coffee? And he's like, oh, I generally make a fresh pot every couple weeks.
Oh my gosh. And barf. Okay, so that'll be for next week, our taste test in coffee, and we'd like to hear back from people if they've had how do you think that's what I was going to ask. I did the 1 to 17. Is it strong enough? Is it too weak? That's kind of right in the
I'm digging
ballpark.
the strength.
Okay, so
I'm not a strength junkie either. Like, you have to have really
I didn't want
extremely good coffee to drink strong coffee and like it.
Well, I didn't want this is definitely too weak. This is definitely too strong. Like, is it just in a good sweet spot?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 to 17 for us works. Does it work for you, listeners? Let us know.
But there is sludge. I can already see the sludge.
Yeah, so
follow, subscribe.
I think I'm trying to remember, which one did I pour for you? The blue one. That one was a plunge. That one wasn't a filter. So I just plunged that one right away.
Okay.
Mine, I filtered a little bit. I kind of did a halvesies.
Filter how?
Well, just leaving the plunge on top.
Oh,
and just kind of like filtering it.
Okay.
Mine has still some sludge in it. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to perfect this technique.
But I mean, how coarse are your grounds?
They were just out of the bag. See, I didn't get to have beans that I got to. Yeah. So I think that's a major factor too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I need some beans. Mm-hmm. Do you have beans?
I am planning to have beans whenever it
How coarse are your grounds?
stops being like 45 degrees for a high.
Yeah.
in the middle of May.
That's true.
Come on, universe.
All right. Trump. What do we not want to talk about?
Is this a section of the...
No, it's not. It's not a dedicated
It's
section.
a regular segment now.
Yeah.
No, I actually...
Get over the hump and talk about Trump. Mm-mm.
I messaged Bobby and I was like, are we going to talk about more Trump? Because Trump is going to come up. And are we just going to be over him? Or like just ignore whatever happens? Or are we going to talk about him? Bob's like, oh no, we're not over Trump. So let's talk about this. People are already like more or less seriously talking impeachment.
Yeah.
Which, contrary to popular belief, is not kicking a president out of office.
Correct. Bill Clinton got impeached.
Yes. It's
Like,
only investigation by Congress on the president.
Yeah.
So, people are talking impeachment. He's been saying some interesting things about being treated worse than any president in the history of America.
So let's just take that statement.
Including JFK.
Yeah, like people who have been assassinated. So let's talk about I am treated the worst, except for Reagan was shot.
Yeah.
But survived. Kennedy did not survive. His blow to the head. But have you seen any of the like documentaries of what is the most likely scenario that what actually shot Kennedy?
No, I haven't looked much into it.
So is it okay if I kind of spoil it for you?
Yeah.
So the guy does a whole big spiel, and it's most likely it was a Secret Service agent's bullet.
Oh.
It was an accidental, like, they heard something. Like, there might have still been an attempt from far away, like behind them.
So it's like a misfire?
It was them bringing up their AR-15 or whatever they were holding from the car behind him.
What?
It goes off and blows away JFK's head.
That's a bad day.
Yeah. And that's why all of the angles would have been the same. The type of destruction in the head would have been consistent with that gun, with that bullet, from that trajectory. All of those things.
So is this coming out from like documents just released?
No, so there was like a Netflix. I don't think it was a Netflix documentary. I'll have to look it up and maybe put the link in the description here so other people can watch this because, it's very, very, very compelling. Very compelling that it was a Secret Service agent accidental misfire because they're not on safety. So when they're they're traveling, they're in transit or whatever. All weapons are hot. So even just like tink, you accidentally hit it, that thing can go off.
Come on, Bobby, it was the mob.
This goes from like intentional assassination to like the worst mistake ever made in the history of the world.
Yes, ever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, and plus think about how fastly you'd want to cover up something like that. They all talk about like, cover up. Well, maybe everybody was in on it. Well, what if the cover-up element it was our own people that just accidentally shot him?
Yikes.
And why did people say, I heard 2 gunshots?
You're right.
Katoosh. All those. All right, but back to Trump. Obviously, it's not as bad as that.
Not as bad as that.
What do you guys make of his just how he communicates? Okay, so let's put it this way: he's just about everything he says is sensational, right? It's over the top.
It's the highest degree.
The highest degree of
sensationalism. Right. I mean, it's not surprising that he would say he's being treated the worst in history because I don't think his mind works like, maybe I'm being treated like the 10th worst, or like I don't think he,
or like in worst by just media standards, like how they're criticizing me in the media. Like he gave no like qualifier, like where clause.
Or he does think that, and he just never communicates that way. He goes like,
it was on Twitter, I think, that he said that.
He goes like,
how are you going to qualify?
Okay, I'm treated badly. Yeah, I don't know if I'm like internal. What's the internal dialogue?
Yeah.
And I don't like the way I'm being treated. I'm going to say I'm being treated the worst ever.
Yeah.
You can't say he's not calculated to a degree.
That's what I'm kind of asking is he actually smart enough to be as calculated as maybe he could be? Or is he just that ignorant?
Do you think he's dumb?
Okay. dumb is a hard. Okay, you have to kind of qualify dumb. Like dumb in the historical sense is like you don't have two rocks in your brain to put 3 and 3 together. He can obviously put 3 and 3 together.
I mean, a lot of people.
I don't know if he's as calculated as people think he is.
Right. Maybe he's half calculated and half just bullshitting his way through.
Yeah.
But that's still. I mean, the way some people paint him is like he's this idiot buffoon, and who has no clue. And you're just like, how did he become the president then?
I don't think he's a buffoon, but I think he was okay. So he saw from maybe from a business standpoint, like, oh, I could find a way to win this thing, and I don't think he was thinking past like winning.
I don't think it's business. It's not money.
It's his own ego, right?
Once you have that, him, right? okay. Yeah, if you're that driven and you have that much money, what do? And you're still waking up every morning at 4 a.m. Like I'm gonna kill it.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want power, I want influence, I want people to listen to me. I gotta feed this ego.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Feeding the ego.
Not. Right? I don't think it'd be a business decision. Then you should sit back and just make more business deals.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I say it like in a business decision, as in like to feed the ego, he sees an opportunity, and then strategically says, okay, how could I win? I win in these states. I say, I appeal to the base or whatever the base is.
I run when it's Hillary and Bernie.
I run when it's Hillary and Bernie.
He didn't run against Obama.
No way.
He was. I mean,
that's very smart. Yeah. So, but there's an element of like, because of his ego, he comes across as crazy dumb, and because of the ego, maybe that does actually make him dumb.
Or he's just trolling us all. Right. He's just smarter than all of us, and he's created this whole thing, and he talks like this and does all that, and underneath he's very intelligent, and he's such a good actor that
I think he's just so much about himself that I don't think he's that smart. I think
he's the president, and we're talking about him. He won.
Well, yeah, but it was a contest. Like anybody could, like, to him it was a ratings element. Like, I got to get the ratings and the right demographics, and I can win. Because he knows how to do ratings. He knows how to do ego.
I think there's a difference between, like, how calculated you are and, like, just sheer intelligence. Because I think he is very calculating in, like, the kind of statements that he makes and how inflammatory he allows things to be and how extreme some of his opinions are. Because all of that
Would you say that the same thing about Fox News? Would you say the same thing about like how Fox News sensationalizes something?
I think most
in the same
media
way
is sensational.
Do you think it's do you think it's as calculated? Because I think there's a lot of similarities. I think a lot of it comes from the gut though, because they're just that angry, or
it's a combination. It's nuanced. It's not either
forever.
or.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in TV too. It's not like they're separate. Like all of a sudden he's the president and now he's trying to be sensational. Like, I think he's been that way his whole life.
He understands the context of America right now, and you got a bunch of politicians thinking people want to hear about like policy and stuff, and they're up there talking, and they're not, and Trump's like, wait, the Kardashians are famous, people are paying attention to that. If you want to get heard online, you have to say something ridiculous.
Yeah. Can we say then that he's strategic in like he knows how to win things? Like he can apply himself and win. But in the sense of what he's choosing to win, as in the presidency, he's in over his head.
I would say.
As far as like actually fulfilling the office.
Right.
Yeah.
Because for him, I think it was a box to be checked. An ego feeder. Like, I won the competition.
But what's going to happen afterwards with this guy? Like,
yeah,
is he going to go like, I'm going global. I'm taking the world. Like, I'm going to take over, North America, like all of North America. Like, I'm taking Canada too. I'm gonna blend us two together.
I think
taking down the wall.
He's keeping that for second term.
I don't know. Sure. So what was the thing you really wanted to talk about with Trump?
Well, I just wanted to broach the topic. I guess like John McCain was quoted unofficially as saying that all of the stuff with Trump, and McCain's a Republican. I mean, he's been in the party forever. is reaching Watergate level.
Yeah.
For all of like the controversy and just stuff about Trump. Like everybody's coming out and saying stuff like the Times is coming out with tons and tons of stuff about like the FBI director.
Yeah.
And like, I just think it's a mess. That's my only point. It's a mess.
It's a mess.
Didn't Bush and Cheney do worse?
I don't know. It probably
actually doing worse.
That,
like how many people they're killing. Yeah,
let's go into Iraq. Let's get the oil, like Bilderberg. Let's,
No, I'm not saying that the traditional Republican how they've run the presidential office is any better. Like I don't want to. I'm not necessarily comparing Trump to how it maybe should be. I would say like his how he's running the office itself, like just how he's running, not like necessarily what's getting accomplished. We're talking, he's ineffectively running as he's a bad leader when it comes to the White House, I would say, because apparently lots of reports are out. Nobody trusts him. Nobody wants to talk to him. Nobody can confront him. It's a lot about just me. And when you're the president, it can't be about you. Now, if any presidents in history, they have had similar things, but just hasn't been public, then they were also doing a bad job. I'm not saying like this is just Trump.
Trump is the only one who's been bad.
Who's the only one's been bad at running the office. His is just so much more public that it's very clear, I think, to a lot of the American people, like, you're not what we really want in a president.
Yeah.
Would that be consistent? I mean...
Yeah, people should have voted more then, I guess, if they...
Yeah. Well,
I'm playing
devil. We talk electoral college versus popular vote because more people voted for Hillary than they did.
I'm not pro-Trump. Like I didn't vote for him. I'm just
at this point.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
It's a bit of a dead horse too. Yeah. I mean, like you said, he is president and we'll deal. But I mean, scandal level is, I think, pretty high. Considering he's only been in office.
If you're the wheel deal part,
January.
So the wheel.
If you're the president, you're probably not a very good person.
Just objectively?
You have to, so you're saying
under the current system of like getting there.
Yeah, maybe.
You got a clean conscience walking into that White House?
Yeah, nobody's squeaky clean. Mormons get into the office. Mormons are squeaky clean.
I'm just saying, if you want that type of power, do you think you get in all? I don't know. Like you're a great guy. You think you can run the free world?
Yeah.
You've got that type. I mean, they've all got that ego.
But what if they have the ego?
Obama's just way more classy.
Yeah.
But Obama's got that in him and goes, I'm going to run this.
Yeah, that's true. I mean...
Or I'm gonna affect that change.
So can that be a noble aspiration?
Yeah. That's where I was going. Like, can he say, I'm going to get fantastic people around me, but ultimately I'll make a good decision. And I think I can make better good decisions than anyone else.
I'm just saying that you think differently than...
Yeah.
Your normal nice person or dude you like to hang out with is probably not the president. It might be fun to hang out with Trump. I don't know. Just for like a weekend.
Depends on what kind of parties you're into.
Let's go golfing.
Right.
Yeah.
You get to hang out on a yacht.
Yeah.
Why not?
With any type of things you want to grab or not grab, whatever.
Wait, what?
And then you have here competitiveness.
So
it's an element
it depends
of
on how much we want to do chit chat, but
I didn't even start the timer. That sucks.
Who knows?
Blows.
Whatever.
24 minutes.
I'm just curious what you guys think of competitiveness because and this is totally not related to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
but I guess
it
could
totally
go back to that. I guess, but okay. So just the idea of competition in general. You've got like sports and games and whatever. There's this level of competition, and like I think it's because I'm personally very not competitive.
Okay, I'm personally very competitive.
Yeah, which is kind of why I ask.
This is a great topic.
I'll be the happy medium.
Dan is he is the yin to our yang, or the yang to our yin. Whatever is
or
needed,
the
he will
line
be.
in between the yin and
Yeah,
the
he's
yang.
the separator.
The little squiggly thing.
I mean, really, like if I'm playing a game or playing a sport or whatever, all I really care about is I don't want to lose too badly. Like I want to be good enough.
Loser mindset.
I was gonna say, I'm like, is it just because you've lost so much that you're not competitive and you're choosing not to try to
win?
win?
So here's the deal. There are some things that I'm like really, really good at a local level. So like playing chess. I win most of the time.
That's true.
I don't actually like that because everybody else then loses and they're like, yeah, screw this. I'm not going to beat you.
Yeah,
so
I'm
done.
gonna play chess with you.
I would prefer
You're not
to
playing
play
against competitive
chess.
people.
I would not prefer to win because sometimes the winning comes at the expense of the playing. And I'm more interested in the play than I am in who wins. Now, granted, what I'm saying is if I lose every game, I'm going to be bummed out and I don't want to play.
Yeah.
So I like to find that happy medium where I'm good enough to compete, but I'm not necessarily the dominant winner.
So you like
every single
competition
time.
then?
But yeah,
that means
almost
you
sounds
like
like
it.
You're competitive.
Because then you're trying to find like
But it's
where,
not what drives me.
Yeah, but you're trying to find like, okay, like if you've got a skill level and you're trying to find like what bracket am I competitive in?
Yeah.
And being competitive is I win some and I lose some and I grow. If you're the best,
dominance versus
You're saying that
competitive is different. Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's a spectrum then of
because right now you don't have
competitive.
a lot of competition because you're better than everybody. So then it's not fun. And if you were the worst, it wouldn't be fun because you couldn't really compete.
right.
So you're seeking the ability to compete in an interesting way.
Because being competitive has that drive of getting better, but also like because the only way you're really going to get better is if you lose a little bit, so that way you can learn from it and grow from that.
I
and
think
you need somebody better than you to almost kind of show you a little bit like, oh, I didn't think of like if it comes to disc golf or something, you need somebody better than you be like, wow, that shot is possible.
Right.
I didn't even know that shot was possible. I want to aspire to get to that shot.
Right.
You know?
So I think by framing it, I still emphasize the winning and losing too much. I still mostly enjoy playing more than actually winning or losing.
Yeah, but there's competition in playing. Each play is a competitive move, like in chess.
Yeah. I would say to me, when someone is competitive, the appropriate way of being competitive is not the drive to win only is my satisfaction, but to compete to win. And if I do win, that's great. But it's the journey to trying to win.
Like if you're
That's
not,
what's
if you're not,
See, I'm not necessarily trying to win. Like,
Yeah, you are. You
especially
don't
when
play
we
if
play
you don't-
disc golf. Like,
I'm
I'm
trying to make the best shot, even if it's
Right.
disc golf. Like it's still solo of winning. Like I
But
don't want to hit the
Do you-
tree.
do you
I'm
keep
gonna
score?
try to just to not
satisfaction
hit the
comes
tree.
from the good shot, not the good score. Like, I honestly
But
have,
enough good shots are going to make a good score. So
Well,
enough of
that's-
good
that's
moves
a
in chess are
natural
going to make
outcome.
you win.
But I'm like, if I have like a 300-foot drive that misses all the trees, I am more pumped about that than getting a birdie on the hole.
so if you were in a team sport, like as long as you played well, you'd probably be happy, even if the team lost. Because like if you enjoyed hitting the 3-pointer or the home run or the movement of whatever.
Yeah, team play for me is actually the reason that I think about this so much, because especially organized sports in high school were such a drag to me because the emphasis on winning was not my emphasis. Like when I was in football, like I just like the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of like, you got to push yourself is like, why? Like I'm playing a game that I like and that's okay.
You
like
just don't wanna run the sprints.
I don't want to go beyond that. Yeah. And I don't want to sprint. Like,
So that's interesting, John. It's like you're kind of competitive. It depends on the situation.
it might be.
Chess is an element of, I think, like you said, if I lose too much, it's because you're also not improving on how you strategically make moves in chess, right? And you're like, wait a second, I know I can do this.
Right.
And so that there's something in you that's driving you to see, can I make all the right moves this time?
Sure.
And that ultimately is then going to lead to probably winning. If I make all the right moves this time, yeah. And then you kind of fist pump yourself, yeah, I won that. But it wasn't because I won. It was because I made all the right moves. And that's what I liked. When it comes to disc golf, you get the birdie, right? Because you had the 300-foot drive that didn't hit all the trees.
Yeah, but
you're pumped about the drive, and the end result was a birdie.
But there can be
and you're
other
going to hate
results.
it if you miss the 5-foot putt to get the birdie. You're going to hate that.
But don't you think, Bobby, that there's an element of when you're in sports, you're not thinking about the score or the end result the whole time.
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
moments in the game where
Yeah.
you're just lost in the game itself, and it's fun.
Yes,
and
yes.
Ultimately, yeah, it's fun partially because there is a competitive element because we are keeping score. Like if nobody's keeping score, it doesn't have the same intensity. But there's also the part where you're just enjoying whatever the movement or the strategy is that you're engaging in, and that is maybe like a less competitive state than going, we're down by 4 with a minute and a half left, and we've worked so hard, and I just hate these guys, and let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's different mindsets in the journey of a game. And sometimes you can just enjoy the more non-competitive
So that maybe
parts.
that brings up a really good point is John, are you, let's say there is a game, right? And you're enjoying the journey throughout the entire game. Like, this is fun. I'm having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But then there becomes a critical moment where you make a putt. Let's say it's disc golf.
Mm-hmm.
There becomes a critical moment where I hit a couple 15-foot putts. I'm going to win today.
Yeah.
When you approach that putt, do you take an extra second?
I mean,
To make sure you're focused, not just I line up, casually toss it. Oh well, I missed. Or do you you're in your form and you get in your stance and you go,
I
all right, I'm focusing on making this putt.
I don't actually think I step up with any, which actually means
Bobby's projecting competitiveness on John.
That's my point.
No, that's what I'm wondering. Do you like?
So I've had this conversation with a lot of competitive people, and they all just cannot comprehend that
empathy.
there is I'm not saying I don't like winning.
I know. But what I'm asking, in that scenario,
in
that scenario, would you not give? I'm just asking, would you give a little more focus to the putt to see if you can sink it this time?
I think if I was in a tournament, maybe, but when I've been playing at Pound to Tear and I'm with the group that we're usually playing with, no. I'm thinking about I've made this putt before. Yeah. I know I can do it. This would get me a birdie or it would put me in the lead.
That's
or
why you never swear when you
miss.
I swear all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm just oh well, that's another putt.
Yeah. And if there was a little small animal nearby, I might break its neck. No. I would say I enjoy the journey. I love playing with people.
Right.
That's why I love going out. Most of all, I would say out of the priorities, it's the enjoyment of being out and just playing. That's the highest priority for me. The competition is not the highest priority. Now, some competitive people, that's the highest priority.
Right.
That's not the highest priority for me. And
I think there is a spectrum.
But if it's 2 holes left and I'm tied with Gabe and I can sink a couple putts,
you're putting the heat on.
I'm gonna try to put the heat on. Yeah. I'm gonna go for it because I'm there's a part of me that's can I do that?
Right.
Because there's another element of even enjoying the journey of, can I do this level now? Can I get up to another level? And to me, that's a part of the journey is, okay, the next winning level, the next clutch moment, the next stepping up. That to me, there's an element of that.
And maybe for me, I've found thinking of disc golf and other things like that, maybe I just haven't found the switch to turn the heat on, but I've never found that any competitive drive that to actually help me. I play best when I'm not worried about how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I don't think it helps me, but I enjoy it more.
Right.
I enjoy when I do hit that
difference
moment.
In our method. Or
when I do hit that moment, I'm hell yeah, baby!
I got a question for you, Bob. Are you competitive at things that you're not good at?
Yes.
Yeah, see, I'm not.
Yeah.
If I think I can win, and I think I have some skill here, but if I go play disc golf, I'm not competitive at all because I suck at disc golf.
Yeah.
But as soon as we're doing, something that I feel like I was good at, then I really care.
No, I'll be competitive at things I'm not good at.
Why?
Because
there's
I like
no reason
better.
You should win.
Because the competitiveness is for myself to get better.
See, I like playing you in chess because I know I could beat you, but you're still going to try really hard because you're competitive.
Right.
Yes.
And if I played you in chess, I'd probably like be excited for the first 5 minutes, and then I'd just be like, "Oh, I'm losing," and then I would like, I would quit any emotional investment in winning.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
just
did you
watch
say I
it go.
suck at chess?
What
you just said?
I did not say that.
I like playing you because I know you're going to try really hard.
I haven't played chess in forever.
No, yeah, I like trying to... One of the things I like most is getting better.
Oh, I do
Is
too.
improving. I mean, this is going to lead into probably our fresh roast about aspiring for something. I like improving.
Bobby, I'm going to lay a Jesus juke on you.
Okay.
You should be more competitive about being more mature in like spiritual things.
That's a bunch of shit. Yes, I should. About spirit. What about you mean about spiritual things?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You
just tried to juke and you tripped over.
Is
phony juke.
Is spiritual practice necessarily vague?
All right, so let's just dive into the fresh roast right now.
Yeah. Right.
Coffee. Okay, so say the question again. Is
Spiritual practice necessarily vague?
necessarily vague?
Well, because
So
if
what
it's
I mean by that-
specific, then you're being too legalistic.
So
Bull crap.
the thing is there's so many things. It's like if you say I want to grow in the fruits of the spirit, that's a goal. But what are the objectives and the strategies and the tactics and then the measurement going to be for I want to grow in the fruits of the spirit?
Pick me. So, just as an example, I want to grow in patience. Because I can see, objectively, looking back when raising my kids, that there are lots of times where I'm impatient. With my wife in conversations and things that she does, I can see that there's lots of times.
You're an objective actor in looking back at your
Yeah.
life interactions with your family.
Yeah, I'm really good. Honestly, I'm good at compartmentalizing lots of elements of my life.
Okay,
like
right.
I can just put things in silos, and I can objectively look and be like, "Oh, that was stupid. That was good. That was whatever." There's
Does
lots
your
of
wife
things.
agree with those conclusions?
Yeah.
Okay.
She would say there.
Now I believe you.
Yeah. There's definitely elements in my life that I'm not patient. And so I'm saying, like, even just mentoring with Giordano, we had one meeting, and he's like, "What's something you want to grow?" I'm like, "Patience." So he's like, "Write down when impatient things happen in your life. Write it down." And it's helping me actually when I've been impatient with the kids. It's already like in the moment, I am more cognizant and more recognizing that, wow, I am right now. You're being impatient. Change.
You're being more self-aware.
Being more self-aware. Because I'm telling myself I want to grow in patience. So now I'm being more active in my own pursuit of that. And maybe it's Holy Spirit, I don't know, right? I don't ultimately know what thoughts come into my mind as a Holy Spirit or not, but I've prayed for more patience. And now when impatient activity is happening, I'm recognizing it sooner. But it's still up to me to make the decision. No, I'm going all out on my kid. I'm gonna lose it on you. Or am I gonna say, nah, step back, be a little bit more patient? So that I would say that would be a practical example of wanting to grow in a fruit of the Spirit, that like how I'm doing it.
Right. So do you have like quarterly check-ins with yourself on like patience or like?
Well,
like
I'm going to be meeting with Mike monthly. And so he's like,
Right.
Tell me your list of times where you were impatient. What did you do? Like, were you, did you change in the moment? Do you find a trigger? Like, am I finding a triggering event that's kicking me off to be impatient? And then maybe you can recognize those triggers sooner and stop it before it happens.
So he asked you about that.
Yeah, he's going to, right? Yeah. That's how I would approach it if I was him. Like, okay, are there triggering events in your life that's kicking off you being impatient? Or if you have like, I like just looking at a whole bunch of porn, and he's like, okay, well, why do you do that? Is there a trigger in your life that's like, man, I'm really bored right now, or something, I just got really depressed, so now I'm going to porn or something like that. Finding those triggers in your life can help you be a little bit more aware of battling in the battle instead of just succumbing to the to the attack or whatever. That make sense?
Yeah, that seems way more. It seems like you have much more of a plan than when you ask most people, or when. I don't know. Like,
I don't know what to say to that.
Right. I'm just saying,
practical.
my experience in church and stuff is like people talking about the fruits of the Spirit or growing closer to Jesus in air quotes.
Yeah, that's
or
harder for
being
me.
more sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit or growing in wisdom and understanding. And you're just like, are those just buzz? Like, what does that mean? Like, is that a buzzword that like you say? And then anytime you ask people like, hey, are you doing better? I still got a long way to go. Mm-hmm. It's like the only response I've ever heard is like, oh, I could just be a lot better. And it's like, well, yeah, like you're not, I don't know, you're not perfect, or you're not Superman.
Yeah,
but
so that's a question for
like,
Bob.
Are you just chilling? Like, this is the goal, and I'm trying really hard. Some people are trying really hard to grow in all these things, but they don't know if they get better. And a lot of times, my experience in like spiritual practice is like, you just feel like you're getting worse. You're like, I want to get closer to Jesus, and like you feel good one day, and then you're like, am I taking one step forward, 2 steps back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I feel maybe like your questions when you had written them down were like there's a lack of an objective standard,
right?
Like, so Bob wants to grow in patience, and maybe like in the day to day or month to month, like he's becoming more patient,
right?
But is there a place that he could get to where he can just say like,
hey, I'm patient now.
I am patient. Like, is there like
is there
a certain like,
is there
75% of the time?
Or would other
somebody
people
like,
look at me and say, Bobby is a patient
or like
person?
a certain amount of satisfaction? Because like, can you ever like reach the goal of being more patient? Because like if I say, if I'm going to train for a race and I want to run this time, then I can train for it and then I can do the race. And I can say, hey, I met my goal or I didn't meet my goal. And I get like the feedback of that from the time. Or if I say, I want to make 10 more friends this summer, or I want to go on, I want to hang
followers on Twitter.
Right. Or I want to, every other weekend, I want to make sure I'm spending like a weekend with friends. Mm-hmm. Then I can go back and I can look and like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, or I want to go get this degree in school, or I want to make this amount of money. There's so many things that are like tangible, and then it removes the anxiety because like
lifelong pursuits, right? Like, I mean, we kind of do get
does it change?
Evaluated.
Does it change what the pursuit is? Like the category the pursuit goes into, like running a race with a time length. That's possibly a short term goal.
Right.
Especially if you're like, I just want to knock off 5 seconds. I want to gain an extra 6 inches in my long jump, whatever it is.
Right.
That could be a short-term goal, but a lifelong goal of
I want to be a
something.
better runner.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like over the next 20 years or something?
Right.
Like, I want to, maybe when you come to that, like, I want to be a runner. Like, just saying, I want to be a good runner, or I want to be a quality runner, which may mean maybe I run a marathon this year, maybe I run 2 next year, but it's not a number. I'm growing in my running each year, and I look back and I can say, wow, I'm a lot stronger today than I was 5 years ago. When it comes to patience, I would want to be able to look back in a year and say, is my list that I'm bringing to Mike shorter of times where I was very impatient? And could I ask my wife, have I grown in patience? And she say yes.
Right.
But the growing in Jesus part, like there are definitely evangelical buzz phrases that people then don't apply nothing. Like they don't have any accountability or anybody mentoring them in their life to say, okay, so how are you doing this?
Right.
Well, I don't know how I'm doing it, but.
And I think there's also like the second element of my question is, when you get into the more vague spiritual terms and then like setting that up as like things you're pursuing in life, I think that they're probably going to be a little bit different from church to church or division to division or whatever. How do you, like sometimes like if you listen to a certain teacher or a certain pastor, they're going to have this lens or this view of the way the world works, and then sort of like, I don't know, there's always a goal or there's always something to improve upon it. And so then if you accept that and then you go after that, you can end up finding out like they almost become like non-things. Like if I want to like grow in like eschatology or something, and I pick a certain, like I pick what's Mike's thing?
Oh, the preterism?
Yeah, preterism, or I pick
discipleship.
Discipleship, or like, I don't know, Mike Pickle's end time thing, or whatever it is. And you like dive into some deep, like nerdy, super vague, lots of different opinions type thing. And you work towards that. Like, are you setting up some sort of like fake spiritual goal that doesn't actually have any, like there's no actual fruit.
Sure.
Like in your life. Like I think there's a lot of times like you can accept the lens. How do you discern within faith or within religion and go, this is like patience.
This is a good goal. This is a bad goal.
Like patience, that's a good example because no one's really going to disagree. Like, yeah, everybody could be more patient.
Yeah.
But being sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit, some people really pursue that and then they just think their own thoughts and get really weird and wacky.
Yeah.
And then they do that for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they're just a weird person, and they didn't like talk to their wife for those 2 hours a day because they were sitting in a room by themselves trying to listen to the Holy Spirit, thinking their own like, the chemicals in their brain are spitting them weird thoughts. Like, how do you determine that? And there's just the element of I don't know, just lenses. Sometimes I feel like there's somebody else's goal of what they think it means to be a good Christian, and if you accept that, it just puts you in, you can just get off in the wrong direction. You could find yourself 5 years later like, I have nothing to show for that.
Yeah. My first thought is when I look at the Gospels and I look at Jesus, and I look at just in general the New Testament, I feel like the most, I don't know if admirable is the right word, goals are goals that are not inward focused. So a lot of the goals that you're saying is like, I need to listen to Holy Spirit more. I want to be in tune with this. I want to be in tune with that. I feel like a lot of things are, when they're outward focused, you're starting to get it maybe. So like, how am I thinking about serving others, feeding the poor, being an example to help shape other people's lives. So when I think about like eschatology or something, or I think about any type of theological pursuit, my goal in learning about those things is to help other people who are maybe struggling with, where do I wrap my brain around this? Like, I don't know what to think. Well, I can help. Like, my goal in learning this stuff is to help, to be a resource for somebody to navigate through stuff.
So it's not like a hobby.
No. Yeah. I mean, like, I do it like a hobby. Like when I study, when I...
If you were studying preterism, like, that's kind of a hobby, isn't it?
I'm studying it so that way I can help others who are wanting to learn about it. Like, I like having the reason why I like having wisdom. One of my spiritual pursuits is I want to grow in wisdom.
Okay, right.
The purpose for me to grow in wisdom is to help give out wisdom for people who need wise advice. Like, that's why I want it. I don't want to hold wisdom. I don't want to hold knowledge about eschatology. I don't want to hold knowledge about the fruits of the Spirit. I want to give that out to people. I want to help. I want to help. So when you were talking about, like, you got to be kind of a weird person to want to be president. Like, that's probably not a dude you want to hang out with. There's a small part of me that's like, am I that type of person? Right? Because I want to change. I want to help people's lives so much. And I feel like I can make good decisions. And I'm okay with making decisions that if in the end they were wrong, I'm okay taking the responsibility for that.
Whoa. That's not me.
Yeah. So yeah, like I like that. I like saying, okay, I've prepared, I'm ready and willing to help, and I can make the decision.
So you feel comfortable in leading people in spiritual practice?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
It goes without saying, but I mean, not everybody is built that way.
Right.
So I mean, we do have people whose like main spiritual pursuits are like prayer and intercession.
Yeah, like, that's not me really.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my point is like, you're kind of thinking like your spiritual pursuits are more or less held accountable because they're outward focused. They're not selfish in ambition.
Yeah.
But there are other, I think, noble spiritual pursuits that are more inward focused and less like outward focused.
Yeah. So one of my problems with my thing is I don't rest.
Okay.
I lots of times I can get very busy with activity and forget what it means to actually feel love from the Father that actually fills my tank to be able to help people better. Like, so there's an element of, there's a time to be selfish, quote unquote, with my just resting in the Father and just resting and learning and hearing. So that way I can actually be filled.
So resting in the Father and being loved isn't an end goal. It's a means to an end. It's a means to serving.
That's a good question.
Because then God's a gas station.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
That's weird.
But if God's a gas station, then what are we doing?
Well, if God's a couch, what are we doing? If all your thing is just to rest on the couch, then get your ass off the couch every now and then. Like, you can't just lay on the couch all the time. You're going to get fat and lazy and
most people don't want to do that,
die.
though. Most people don't want to lay on the couch all the time.
But I'm saying, like, as a parallel or dichotomy between, is God just a gas station where you get filled to go, or can resting be an end goal?
If you're so
goal, it's like I'm just going to take a nap on the couch.
I think we could conclusively prove that God is not a couch. Like, if
quote of the day,
but that has to be said apparently.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because like if we're in good relationship with Him, there is a measure of balance. There is rest and there is motion. There is both.
So is He more like a truck stop?
There's abiding and there's the Great Commission. Like, the tendency to err on one side or the other is really strong.
Or is He more like a Hampton
We
Inn?
like to obsess.
Is Jesus more like a Hampton?
Specifically
or like a
obsess
Hilton?
about metaphors.
Where you can go and rest.
Useless metaphors.
Where you can rest well, like a nice hotel. Like 5-star hotel with all the things. You can go and rest there and get just completely filled. But you're not staying there. You're gonna go.
Away from God?
Not away from Him, because there's always a Hilton. There's always another like a hotel for where you're going to rest in. But it doesn't mean you stay there all day.
But we're called to abide.
Yes. When it's time to abide, you abide.
No, but it's always time
I'm just saying, if you're compartmentalizing, this is my rest and fill up time, this is my go out time, then you're kind of like, you're compartmentalizing part of your life that shouldn't be compartmentalized.
I think it's like that artistic type of element of like, when I'm serving, I'm also abiding. Okay, fine. However you want to phraseology put, like, I'm serving in the Lord and I'm feeding homeless people. I'm also abiding and resting.
Yeah, I don't want to be served by you if you're not abiding.
That looks like resting at the same time. I'm like, to me, when I think rest, I actually think, okay, what does that practically look like? I'm literally resting. Like, the Sabbath was literal rest from 6 other days of doing work. You know?
Okay, right.
I can safely say, when I'm serving, when I go to San Francisco and buy meals and hand them out to homeless people and sit down with them and talk to them about their lives, like, I am being filled by God at the same moment, just like I am filled with God when I'm literally not doing anything. I'm getting filled in a lot of the same ways.
Right.
But when you do a whole bunch of things where you're not actively kind of with the Father, I guess, which is abiding, being with something, you definitely need to make sure you're actively resting. You're having the time separated and segmented out from activity to rest.
Right. Yeah, I think we maybe just started talking in two different.
Yeah.
Like, I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because people put all the, like, that's one thing I don't like about Christianity is like these like you said, growing in the Lord and doing all these things. We have these crazy phrases. You're like, well, what the hell does that mean? Like, abiding in the Lord. That can take shape in so many different ways. What does that mean? When I'm serving, when I'm sleeping, when I'm reading his word, when I'm just praying, when I'm mentoring a person, can I be abiding in all of those things? Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe not. Like for some people, maybe not. I don't know.
So, like you were saying, there are some things that we can get like caught up in that don't actually bear any fruit.
Yeah.
So how do we go about? Because I mean, we're getting stuff from a lot of different sources. Like there are like prominent people, and I've kind of fallen trapped.
If they don't have a Facebook page, though, I'm not getting the source. I'm just saying.
I've kind of fallen prey to this too, where there are prominent like spiritual leaders. Like I'm thinking like Greg Boyd,
Okay.
who like he puts out a lot of books, talks about a lot of really interesting subjects, very little of which is practically spiritually edifying. It feeds my brain because it's knowledge and it's controversy, and I like it.
Yeah.
Spiritually speaking, I don't actually know how much it does. So how do we go about like kind of winnowing out like this is like practically fruitful and this is like, well, maybe it's the difference between like spiritual disciplines and hobbies. Like if I want to figure out like, does the future exist? That is something like, go for it. If you want to research, fine. Is that going to make you a better Christian? No.
No, probably not.
Is that okay? Yes.
But are there topics or certain things that approach the same way as does the future exist that actually can lead to spiritual fruit?
Such as?
Let's say end times. Can I learn about end times in a way that allows me and shapes how I live my life as a Christian?
Potentially.
Right. But like if I have this idea like I'm going to stand before God someday, right? And then I'm making life decisions through that lens, like in some sort of end time situation. I have to make the decision like on the ground, like you're talking about practical life, like should I move here? Should I say this when I'm having conversation with my wife? Should I have another beer? Should I stop? There's decisions. And sometimes if you think about them through a spiritual lens of like, well, I'm going to stand before God someday. It's like extra work for you to navigate like.
Is it extra work or appropriate work?
It's like extra work where you're like, you're dealing with questions that like you can't really answer or that are vague. Like, well, what does God think about me? Or like, is this a sin? Is this not a sin? I mean, people ask these questions like, is this a sin? Is this not a sin? And then it's like you miss the point of like, is that extra drink of beer for you like going to be good for your body or not? And if you didn't think about it from a spiritual lens, you could just make a choice like, yeah, I'm fine waking up a little hungover tomorrow, or like, no, I just need to have a glass of water and hydrate myself. Or should I say this to my wife? Like, nah, I want to be a good person and, not a douche. You can get way quicker to like the answer of like, what do you actually want for like your well-being and the person in front of you's well-being? If you're instead of, it's like in college when people are saying like, what's God's plan for my life? And because they're like juniors and seniors and like you're in a prayer group and you're like, I don't know, apply to some jobs. Like pick one. You know what I mean? But it's like there's this extra emotional, and then it's put in the internal context, which like weighs people down. And then you have people that don't know how to make decisions, and then also don't know what they want or what they like, because you're viewing it through some lens of like, I'm going to stand before God someday, which you don't even know what that's going to look like, and it's some sort of story picture that like you've been handed, and you're trying to make a decision through that lens?
So do you think people, it sounds like you're saying people misappropriate. I think there's an appropriate, well, we'll start with this. I think there's an appropriate asking the question, what does God think about this? Like categories of things categories of things to ask that question. But then there's also like, you don't need to ask that question for this category of things. You know, like
Okay.
there's like you're saying, like, should I say this to my wife? No, don't be a douche. Like, it's not a sin, right? Like, just don't be a douche, right? So that makes, like, do I have this like strawberry or do I have the raspberry? Well, what ultimately in Jesus' name does this come to? Like, Lord, tell me, should I have the strawberry or the raspberry? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to be asking that question. It's the wrong question to ask.
Right.
I think wisdom comes into knowing when's the appropriate time to ask the question. You know, maybe we have over spiritualized Jesus in itself to just puppet me. We're asking him to make us puppets. Pull the strings, Lord. Where am I supposed to go for all of these things, for every element of my life? What car should I buy? Should I buy the blue Toyota or the red Toyota, Lord? Tell me what's going to be more like we can definitely over spiritualize certain elements, but good ones are like, what do you want me to do, Lord? That's a harder one. I think, that's a harder one in the sense of like.
Yeah, but I see where Dan's coming
but
from.
But it's kind of oh, go ahead.
Well, I just think like there's sort of like the natural, like, yeah, I'm not going to be a jerk. The natural side of things, and then there's the spiritual side, like what brings glory to God. But I think as we like, there's a maturity level for both, right?
Yes.
Like when we're kids, we don't even know in the natural, like, oh yeah, I should probably do that. We just do whatever we want, and like the consequences come later, and we're like, what? And then like, let alone the spiritual side, like, what is God calling me to do here? Like, what should I be doing spiritually? What are my pursuits? But I think there's just a level of, like, we get better in both of those things as we pursue them. I think to the point that, like, we can confidently, like, we don't have to muddle about, like, the spiritual side of these questions. We can actually get to the point, like, air quotes, like, where we're communicating with the Spirit well enough to where there's a confidence there, like.
Oh yeah, so what's his face? Rick Kettling. I remember him talking things about this, about their church and their vision, and talking about different activities that people would propose as ideas for the church to do. And he would say, we don't oftentimes pray about any idea anybody brings up. We don't pray about it. And people are like, oh, sacrilege. You don't pray about things that people ask you? He's like, no, we have a vision. We ask the question, does this fit the vision or not fit the vision? If it doesn't fit the vision, guess what? It goes away. We don't even consider it. And I think that's an element of life. Like, God, should I be a painter or an electrician? Would both fit the vision of what I have for you?
Right.
To
What
serve the
skills
poor,
were you given?
to love me and love others well, and to love your neighbor, be an example of who I am to others so people can find me? Can I do both in that? Yeah. Then what do you like? I've created you to do something that you like, you know? I think people are like, we over spiritualize those decisions.
Well, and sometimes it's like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? But really the question is, God, what's the hard thing that I think I should do that you're asking me to do? Like, there's a lot of like the pressure of like, I mean, am I like, I don't know, am I called to Thailand? Like asking that question, like, why are you asking that question? Like, if you're called to Thailand.
Yeah, we probably ask the wrong questions way more than we ask the right questions. But if I also ask a question and I expect that God can give me an answer, if I don't hear anything, then I'm just going to go with what I think is right. You know, like, God, should I be a Salesforce developer, or should I quit that full and try to do ministry full time? If I don't hear an answer from the Lord, like, I'm calling you to quit today.
Right.
I'm going to keep doing my job. Like,
but in the question, like, is there an element of like losing a little bit of yourself, or not knowing like who you are, or what you like, if you're asking that question, like, am I called, like, if I like, am I called to Thailand, or should I be a Salesforce developer? Like, and then you're trying to please God. Like, I don't know, like what. Like, you're always like, well, like, yeah, you're always like, you're always asking this divinity what he wants. Like, well, I don't know, like, what do you want? Or what do you, like, do you think there's an element of like, when you plan your life around what God wants, that you
lose a bit of yourself?
Yeah. you don't end up doing what you want.
I think it
Like
it can happen that way. But if you frame your life as in, God, I want my life to be pleasing to you. I want to do what you're asking. And I'm going to ask you like about these things, about these life decisions. Like, I don't think who I am is becoming more like him, and who I am is not getting lost. If I want ultimately his desires, he's gonna mold me and change me into who I'm ultimately supposed to be. What I ultimately want is to resist the things that I want that he doesn't. But I also want to find the harmony between the things I want and he also wants.
Right.
And I want to find the harmony between the things he's like, I don't care. I love you. Just go. Like, do what you like. Right. I don't think he cares that I play disc golf over ball golf. I don't think he cares about
he loves it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like what should I pursue as a hobby even? Like woodworking or disc golf or, like, I don't know, welding or something.
I think the same applies to kids. Like when my kids are playing or like just in their day-to-day lives, whatever they happen to be playing with or doing, my only desire is that they're not like beating up on their brothers.
Yeah.
If they're playing with cars or if they're playing with trucks.
Yeah.
Like
an element of what you're asking.
If they're reading books.
Perfectly happen what John's saying is that the Lord, like in John's perspective, has more of a macro view maybe than a micro view.
Not
and people take
micromanager.
I need Lord you to tell me every micro thing.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna maybe lose part of yourself because you're supposed to be partnering with God.
Yeah.
He created you to be unique and created you to have some cool desires and cool things.
I totally get that. I think the question is like, what if you're in like your 900th worship service and you're like, I don't even know if I like this. Like, I don't even know if I like sitting in worship services, right?
Yeah.
But it's been your default for so long because you're like, I'm a Christian. I please God. I go to church. This is like what I do.
Yeah.
And you've been bored like 85% of your life in worship services. And then one day you're like, wait, why? Like, you meet Christians who don't really like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
like, no, all the time. Like, do you actually like I know like love and pursue, like all the noble things, but like, are you happy? Like, do you like him? Do you agree with what he says? Like, or people disagree with what he says, but they're a Christian, so they never talk about it or they never feel comfortable. So you're like, I want to be like Jesus, except I don't really want to be like Jesus in A, B, and C, but I could never say that. And that's deep down in my heart somewhere because I want to please God. Like, I want to be like Jesus.
There's good and bad of what you just said.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to be like Jesus, but I definitely don't want to serve the poor ever.
Right.
Like, that's deep down. Like,
so
I think you maybe have a problem.
An issue.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk about that.
So, like, I grew up a lot of my life, like, I was as into evangelism, and I thought it was like a priority. And I kind of thought too, like, well, if you live in an evangelical context, and like, there's a lot of people BSing about like this is important and nobody ever does it.
Yeah.
And so like I made that a priority through like parts of my teen and into my college life, and like talking to people about Jesus and going on missions trips, and I started a band and I like preached the gospel in it and stuff. And I had some of those awkward conversations, and some of them went well and some of them didn't. And then having this ideal too, like you see like who's that guy that comes, the skinny guy, the healing, Paul Rapp, like he shares a video, or there's like a Todd White video or something, and like you see this ideal of like people who aren't scared to tell other people about Jesus or whatever. And so it's like this goal and this ideal and this value that I'm holding. But then like I guess one day I never felt safe in going, I don't actually like having awkward conversations with people about Jesus, but I've never been honest enough with myself to say, or like trying to convince people. And I was even, like a lot of times I listened to people and then I said my point of view, and I don't even know if I was good at evangelism or not.
Yeah.
But realizing like at the end of the day, I felt this pressure, and it was a value I held, and it was something I was going for, but I didn't think it was okay not to have that value.
Okay, so
Then I realized, like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I realized when I was in Reading in Bethel, and I was in a mall, and I'm with some chick, like, giving prophetic words to people, and I have no prophetic words, and I'm like, I am super weird. I'm that guy. I'm in a mall tapping on people's shoulders, and I never want to be this person again, and I don't want to go up to that person in Walmart. So, like, that's not me, but I've had this ideal.
Okay, so you've had the ideal. So my question is it possible that your definition of evangelism has been misappropriately given to you? Like,
but I've done multiple forms.
Well, it can be in thousands of different forms. But I'm saying is, has evangelism been just shown to you in a few frameworks? And since people tell you you should aspire to evangelism, and I'm only going to show you these 2 or 3 different examples, you're like, crap, does evangelism mean I need to be the weird guy that goes in the mall and taps people on shoulders? Or does it look differently for me?
Yeah, but I've done it, like, in casual conversations at work. I've done it with friends. I've been that guy in the mall. I've gone on mission trips. I've preached to large groups of people. I've done it with small groups of people. I feel like I haven't just been handed, like, here's one way to do it.
Okay.
I feel like I have touched and even participated in multiple ways.
Okay.
And then I was like, wait, why? Like, I look back, like, I look at, like, being in a band, like, being on stage and, like, telling people, like, if you don't believe like me, you'll go to hell. And I'm like, who's that dick? You know what I mean? Like,
is there ever, I mean, I don't think of this as like,
so what?
I guess what I'm getting at is like,
what do I tell Jesus?
well, like, is there an element of your life with Jesus that you enjoy so much that you hope other people have it? Like, have you found something in Christ,
right?
Like what Jesus has done and shaped and healed your heart that you hope other people can experience the same healing? So let's say you found a friend or a new person who's experienced a lot of similar things you have, right? And has traveled in a similar journey, and you've experienced healing, but they haven't yet. Would you want to share how you got healing with them?
Yeah, possibly.
To me, that's evangelism. Like, that it's tailored to you. That's like Todd White is tailored to Todd White, like his evangelism, you know, like how God made him is like, that's him. And he's showing other people because maybe it's going to activate in somebody who's also wired the same way to do the same thing.
Right.
Like, oh, that's me. Like, and they get it and they jump on board.
Right.
Like,
There's an element of that of going like, how do I be myself and
what's your expression that God is asking you to be?
Yeah, because there's some guys who listen like to the Todd White podcast and they're like, I want to go do that. And it's not like, because for me, I agree. Like, I listen to that and I'm like, oh man. Like, not only do I not function that way at all, that's an insane amount of pressure.
Yeah.
And it's not a calling, it's like a condemnation thing. Yeah. Like,
oh yeah,
I've never done that a single day in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I must be a failure.
Yes.
But some people listen to that and they say, that's me, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. So I think it is in a large part a custom fit thing.
So would you say, like, in general, the church has done a bad job of letting people know that the expressions of the Christian life is going to look differently for everybody? Because, like, let's put it, for example, I in general do not like standing and worship singing songs. Like, I just in general don't like that. I like playing drums.
Right.
And there are certain songs that we play that I'm like, I like playing this. Something about this is energizing me. And sometimes I play drums and I've cried. Like, there's just something that connects. But most of the time that doesn't happen. Most of the time sitting in the audience, I just don't like singing songs. I actually have a thing about watching people sing that I just don't like. I have a big problem about watching people sing.
Right. So do you ever go like, why do I go to church? Because that's like half of it. I mean, I'm sure you have other reasons.
I ask a different question.
I have problems with your definition of church.
Yeah,
that's
what I would ask a different. That
With
may
my
not be the
definition?
right question. Yeah, that may not be the right question.
Oh.
So yeah,
we can dig into that.
Coming here on a Sunday morning to go to church, I
Yeah.
think, is a fallacy.
Yeah, I'm willing to participate, like to some degree, in doing the worship thing, to get the community element with the other believers that I'm in community with, to just be with them, like, and experience something with them.
Right.
Like I'm willing to do that, to experience something with them, to be a part of something with them that may not be my bag, right? There are people I invite, like, let's go play disc golf, man. This is totally my thing, and they come and they're like, this is not my bag, but I enjoy being with Bob, so maybe I'll go.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that would be me.
To me, that's kind of like what a little bit of worship. I'm willing to do this, but I also will say, like, this isn't it. I will convey to other people, like, come to my house, eat a meal, like, share a beer, like, let's play some cards and talk a little bit about life. Like, Matt and Kelsey came over last night. We played cards, but we also got deep with a whole bunch of stuff that's going on with, well, particularly me right now, with my family, my grandparents. So, but asking the question, is this ultimately what church is? That's a better question, not just should I go or not anymore. I think you need to ask a different question of, like, is that all that church is? If that's all that church is, and there's elements like, I don't like this, therefore I'm giving up on church, maybe the better question is, what can I change about church that I can actually enjoy? Like, elements of what is God calling me to do as church that's enjoyable. And
Here's a nice vague question for us. How can I better be the church?
wow.
I mean, I like the question, but it's necessarily vague, I think.
I mean, I'm not clear.
Right. Here's my
I don't
question.
even know.
If a church has a mission, which is evangelical, as in we want to spread our message. Okay, we want other people
if
to.
That's the okay. We'll say if that is. The
Okay,
mission
yeah,
of the church.
not all visions of the church,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's different expressions where you're like, hey, we all come here, we practice our faith, we do the song, we go home, or we do it in each other's houses every other day, and then we're not out there trying to convince other people or bring other people into the fold, but I guess the context in which I've been raised in is an evangelical, at least in word, of go to the nations, support missionaries. We should tell as many people as possible. At least that's said, or that's a value that's expressed.
Because the world is ending in like probably 2 decades.
Right, or people
Might
are
be
going
major framework a while,
or
so
like
asking the right questions.
right, or I don't know, like there's a real hell with fire and everyone's going to go there. So I mean that brings some urgency as well to the situation, not just the world, but like people's lives. In that context, if you tell everybody just evangelize whatever feels normal to you, a lot of people don't evangelize very much and aren't very comfortable with even the softer versions of evangelism. A lot of people don't actively engage in that. So I think the question for me, and like growing up as holding evangelism as a value, you go, okay, this is the vision. It's a huge vision. There's 7 billion people. There's people that have never heard the gospel. Yep. There's a lot of people in my town who don't believe what I believe. Da, 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 da. And you're setting forth that vision with, hey, evangelize when you feel like good about it, and when that works for you. I was like, you're not going to hit your mark by like telling people to be comfortable when they evangelize, or like be themselves.
Right. Yep.
You're going to have some people not be themselves in order to get that message to that number of people. There's going to have to be some sort of mass element and even standardization of the message for that to happen. So,
or that's persecution, but that's a digression.
In what way?
Well, I was just thinking like how, because there was such an expansion of the gospel like in the first century. And we did not have, like, it was a giant world back then, like as it is small now, because of technology and whatever. And I think one of the biggest catalysts for growth is persecution, and we don't have it. So the comfort level is cool and everybody's there, and like there is no real sense of urgency, I think, at all. But like you look at other places in the world with persecution and the church is growing like crazy, like, and you hear that and it doesn't necessarily line up. Like that's, to me, that doesn't make a logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Like people are getting killed and thrown in prison, therefore more people are believing. Like what? Mm-hmm. So I think that provides maybe a level of urgency that we just haven't seen.
But you're kind of also saying, Dan, that like we're not going to hit the goal. I guess is it better to ask, is that the right goal? Is the goal correct?
Right. I don't know if the goal should be to go convince all the people that, I don't know, believe in Jesus like you do.
Let's say that is the goal, is to evangelize the world.
Right.
To get the world to know Jesus. Okay?
To make Jesus famous.
To make Jesus famous, right? Is it right? I guess the next question to say then is, what is the church's method for doing it? What is Jesus asking? How is Jesus asking the church to do that? Right? Mm-hmm. Jesus says, I have the goal, go to the nations, make disciples, baptize them.
Right.
Okay.
Told 12 dudes that.
Told 12 dudes that, right? Who are going to tell their 12 dudes, who are going to tell their 12 dudes, who are going to tell their 12 dudes. I guess the question is, do you feel like what has been presented to the church as the methods of doing that is incorrect? Like, you need to be this type of person to successfully be fulfilling the goal.
Not incorrect, but not exhaustive.
I don't think it's exhaustive. Yeah, I think so. Like, people are called to be missionaries. We have Drake and Zaya, right? That want. They're like, we want to go live in Cambodia.
Zeke and Drake.
Drake and Zaya. Zeke and Drea. Oh my gosh. I'll just take some letters and flop it in them. Zeke and Drea, they want to go to Cambodia and be an expression of the gospel there. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, come on, Bob.
Neither do I.
You know, so, like, great. I think it is valuable to say, I love that that's what God is doing and making you to be. Mm-hmm. I will give you some money to help do that. Because I'm not called to do that. And I'm called to be here to shape people's lives and disciple people here. Like, that's what I feel in my heart is like, I want to help people and disciple them in wisdom and truth to live a life that and to receive healing in areas that they need healing in. Like, that's for me. That's how I evangelize, but it's in a discipleship type mode. You know?
Right.
And so I think it is effective to say it is going to look differently for everyone. And maybe the problem is we haven't been saying, comma, and that's okay. It's going to look differently for everyone to evangelize, comma, and that's okay. Instead, maybe we've been saying, it's going to look differently for everyone to evangelize, comma, but we hold those who go out and are crazy to a much higher, like, esteem and value. Like, what we always... it's okay to do whatever God calls you to do, but I'm going to let you know Todd White's awesome.
Right.
You know, I'm going to let you know Paul Rapley is the bee's knees, right? I'm going to show you these... It's spin. Mm-hmm. Christianity, like, just like news, right? Like, anything can be spun in a way that gives you a filter of, these are the good things.
But don't you think, like, so, don't you think there's an element of, like, the Todd Whites and the Paul Rapleys, like, if your goal is to tell a bunch of people, I'm not saying their method is, I'm just saying, like, if that's the goal, then aren't they kind of doing it better than me sitting at home discipling a person once a week? I don't know.
But the goal is not an individual goal. The goal is a church goal.
Right.
So when Jesus says go and make disciples, he's not telling it just to one dude. He's telling it to 12 who are going to form the foundations of the church, right? Mm-hmm. And he's telling it to all the other 70-some disciples who, you know, he's telling it's a goal for the church. Mm-hmm. what's hard is that it's generally always taking lots of things that Jesus says and commands or whatever is in the context of a full community and a full church body. And we take a lot of things individually and put all of that pressure on ourselves. Todd White is fulfilling how his expression, how God made him, and that's good because he's an arm and I'm a leg and I'm different.
Yep.
You know, and so
we're probably like pinky fingernails.
Yeah, I'm. But that's okay. I've actually thought about that a little bit. Like, Lord, do I have this feeling of like I need to be a lot better Christian or like a bigger or like way more influence and be huge? Or do I need to move to a bigger town so that way I can have more influence of all these people in order to get whatever rewards are in heaven that are in store for me, so I can get all the rewards or whatever? Or am I okay with where I'm at and God using me where I'm at to influence where I'm at and to help the people where I'm at?
I mean, it makes me think of like the talents that Jesus talked about. Like, not everybody got 10 talents.
Yeah.
I mean,
am I okay with the
it's
rewards?
Maybe a little hard to hear because we are all like, yeah, go and be like the very, very best, like Billy Graham dude. Maybe not.
Yeah. Am I okay with being in the middle?
Right. I think definitely the onus is to be faithful with what we've been given.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of pressure, I think, to try to
be faithful with what Todd White's been given.
Right. Try to do more and be more than what we've actually been given. I think that's probably priority number one, is to find out what we've been given and be faithful with it. Which is maybe another vague goal.
I mean, what do you think of that?
Right. I just wonder, like, so if you were going to have more expressions from the church on, like, what good Christian living is or faithfulness or whatever, it's just like, it's like like a share in church or like something that's on the TV that's projected or something. Usually isn't like, yeah, and then Bobby took his kid to McDonald's. But like that's what's happening in this church or the church just as much as and then Bobby went and prayed for somebody or something. So Bobby buying his kid a Happy Meal is like the same expression of the Holy Spirit or of God or whatever. But I don't know if we think like that when we
when
we walk into a building.
That's something to get better at.
Yeah, and I think that's
I think it's important to define that, like, that's not where we're at. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, the multiversity of expression is wrong. Like, just because we're not good at communicating, like, Bobby buying a Happy Meal is, like, a pure expression of fatherly love.
Yeah, fill in the love tank of my kid.
We might not talk about that, but that doesn't mean that it's not true.
So then the next question
we just got to get better.
Should we be getting better at having real Christian community and discipleship level to encourage people in those little things?
Well, I mean, that's
right.
That's kind of my vision, like, for what I like, because I think in next week I'm preaching here, and I kind of want to, like, I want to continue to give tastes.
Plug your show.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So we meet on Monday night,
10 a.m.
But like, I want to continue to introduce, like, the less sensational pieces of real church life.
Yep.
To just bring up the idea that, like, you can be church anywhere, and that's actually, like, because you can say that and you're still, like, in the back of your head, like, well, but it's not as good as filling a stadium.
Yep. Well, it's not as good as talking to the waitress when she comes in and she's obviously having a bad day.
And I don't think you should necessarily limit yourself, because there's a real, like, the fear and timidity thing. But like,
it's not an excuse to let those things be like, well, I'm not called to that, so I'm not going to do that. Well, is it? Right. Are you not called to it just because you're actually afraid? I'm just going to serve Jesus, like, on my couch because I don't, like, I'm actually afraid of doing any of the stuff that I'm supposed to do. Like, that's a different animal. Yeah. So I think it is most important to figure out what you're called to do.
So is that bad? Like, if people just go, like, people who have, like, a private faith, like, is there a place
If that's all, okay. So
if some people say that, they say
between them and God. So is God only calling them to that? If that's what God is asking them to be responsible for as a private faith, no, it's not bad. Right. But if God is calling them to something different and they're choosing not to because they're afraid, I think that's something they need to be growing in.
So I'm just speaking to myself.
Right.
And if other people are like, well, that's my own calling and I'm offended that he would make an example of that, like, become less sensitive, whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, like, for me, I know in part what I'm called to do. And for me, just sitting on the couch and, like, being a private Christian or actually not really being a Christian at all is just a lazy excuse to do nothing.
Yep.
And, like, that's all I'm going with. Like, I know enough of what I'm called to do to know that that kind of activity is not faithful.
So I would say this, to wrap it up. There is activity. There's an activity element to the Christian life. There is a doing to the Christian life. That expression is going to look different for each person in each context, in each time in history. Mm-hmm. It's about, like what John said, finding out what God wants me to be responsible with and being responsible with it. You know, what is he calling me to do? And do that. And that's I want to get closer to Jesus is, okay, who do you want me to mentor? Like, in what what kind of areas of healing do they need in their life? Who do you want me to serve? Like, how do you want me to grow and prepare to be a good servant? Mm-hmm. How do you need me to rest? It's going to look totally different than other people. Now, there might be some similarities because we all live in the same town. You know, there might be some similarities there. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a good thing because God's called us to be here maybe now, to be an expression of the church here and now.
Right. And
there's going to be some things we're gonna overlap with.
Well, and even to work together with
to work together. So I think there is an activity element, but my activity is not the same as Todd White's. Yeah. I'm not called to be him. Thank the Lord.
Well, this has been Digging Deep with Dan.
For an hour and a half.
Dude, I listen to podcasts that are like 3-4 hours long.
Yeah?
You ever listen to the Joe Rogan Experience?
Mm-mm.
Those are like
I listened to some of his stand-up, though. I watched some of it.
Okay, yeah. Or like Tim Ferriss is like 2.5 hour podcast.
Wow.
Jeez Louise.
Dude, I listen to the whole thing.
I can't listen to people talk while I'm working because I'm writing so much code. It's very hard. I've actually started written words that they're saying like in my code, and I'm like, that's not it. That's not a for loop.
I look at that long of a podcast, I'm like, nope.
But the thing is people, there's always like the awkward 20 minutes where people, 20 or 40 minutes, or if it's like a new guest you've never talked to, once people get into an hour and a half, they really start opening up.
I think so. I think this is
I like listening to long form stuff because like it's so much better than television. Because in television, there's 5 people that each get like 90 seconds to say something.
Yeah, and you got 22 minutes for the show.
They're all like
anywhere. What do you think about Trump? What do you think about Trump? And you never get anywhere.
Are we still recording, by the way? Are we still recording?
Yeah.
Oh.
But anyways, I just like the longer form because people like end up being more honest eventually because they get comfortable.
Well, and the dialogue is taking form to find out more of what the question is we're all trying to ask.
Right.
You know, and that's okay. Do you have more? I mean,
well,
ask away. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm like, is there more to it? Like,
because like I'm a verbal processor for sure.
Yeah, me.
So like I read your thing and I was like, no. When in reality, like I have a lot more to say and to think about what you wrote.
Right.
But it takes a dialogue to actually get that out.
Yeah. Absolutely. You got more?
I'm good.
Okay. For the segment today, I was like, I put in a would you rather into the Googles. Christian, would you rather? And actually, some of these were kind of good. They were kind of like a youth group, like would you rather. But then some of them were.
Would you rather be envious or commit fornication? Yeah. Well, which sin would you rather commit?
Would you rather? Yeah. Okay. These were some of these were interesting. Would you want to know?
12 is good.
12?
Yeah. Oh, you guys gotta read them to me.
Be a prostitute, but have helped the spies escape Jericho, or be a virgin that gives birth to Jesus and have your reputation ruined.
Oh, me?
Yeah, baby. It's
You're
would you
asking me
rather.
if I'd be the Virgin Mary? Oh, that's kind of...
Or be the prostitute that helps the spies escape Jericho.
I'm gonna go with the Virgin Mary.
I'm
Yes,
the
because
Virgin Mary.
I just
Absolutely.
I don't think it'd be fun to be a prostitute.
Yeah, Virgin Mary, absolutely. Because I'm okay with reputation.
Plus,
before.
you got time. Like the technology was probably better and life was better when Mary was alive than like old school Jericho.
Yeah, right.
Bobby, would you rather have your diet be manna and quail or locusts and honey?
Manna and quail.
Manna and quail.
Absolutely,
It
right?
doesn't sound that bad.
I've had manna. We're talking bread. It's not unlimited, but it's still crackers. Like, you can make it into a cracker.
I'm bread guy,
Yeah,
for sure.
Bread. And quail. Last time I found out, that was meat, right? Like, honey and
Honey and locusts.
Bugs and
That's
locusts?
when you go into a room for
time is
10
if
years
you're
and try to listen to the Holy Spirit and what happens. So I think God told me to eat honey and locusts. Well,
Yeah,
John,
you're
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do the baptism thing.
Yeah.
That was whack.
Yeah,
You didn't
that
need
was-
to do that.
The only downside is if you're gluten intolerant. Then,
yes.
So much for the manna.
How come there's no celiacs in the scripture?
Okay.
You're more spiritual.
Would you rather have been baptized by John the Baptist or been in the upper room at Pentecost?
Upper room.
Right?
Room.
Oh, work for 14 years to get 2 wives. Or get your brother's birthright by stealing it.
2 wives.
Oh, brother's birthright.
2 what? I would totally get the
Brother's birthright.
2 wives is not worth it.
It's hard to have one wife. You're telling me I gotta have 2?
This is going on the internet forever. I answered wrong.
Oh, no way. Let's see. Okay. Be able to feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish or heal someone's blindness.
Blindness. It's one day. Good for you. Here's some McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how much it would suck
I've
to
been
be
going back and
blind?
forth. Yeah, I go back and forth with this one a little bit because 5,000 is like 5,000 people.
5,000 stomachs.
So
They're going to
you
eat
feel
again?
It's 5,000. Like they all are witnessing the miracle. Like we only had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish.
I feel like the 5,000 is a better witness tool and a better brag. Like, I fed 5,000 people. The blindness is cooler, like, I actually entirely changed one person.
I was just thinking about the dude.
Forever.
He's blind and then he's not blind.
Yeah.
Like his life is just
That's so
100%
cool.
better forever.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. Your life instantly better. All right. Haven't seen the Red Sea being parted or Jesus walk on water.
Red Sea.
I'm Red Sea. Gabe said Jesus walk on water. I'm like totally Red Sea.
We
right?
know he can do that.
That one's actually really tough because I feel like walking on water, like,
And there was Gabe
was-
brought up the
it was
point of,
during
like,
a
it's a
storm,
storm. It's like, are waves like? Is he like bounding with the wave? Like, is he
He must
surfing?
have been.
That
Like,
sounds
on
like
the
a
water?
Gabe argument.
Is he like surfing on the argument?
but I'm leaning that way a little bit just because I don't think it's the way we think it would look. Like,
But how do you think the Red Sea being parted look?
Well, because we can actually, like, more or less
Is it like-
recreate that. Like, have
Yeah,
you
but is it
seen
like the
Exodus? Like,
Yeah, but
the
is
way
it
they
like the
do that-
walls, like just like that, like, and then like the whales are like, woo, like on the side, like it's an aquarium almost, and you're walking, and it's like, look at all these things.
What
like,
if it's just a fable and we sound like idiots right now?
maybe they
Oh,
walk?
jeez. Had to go there.
That's not the question, okay?
Let's see. Live as long as Methuselah or Jesus?
So 969 years or 33 years.
900.
I'm 33 right now. It's almost scary. I
Think of how
900
many
years.
iterations of the iPhone you could live through if you lived to 900. I want to see what technology looks like in 100, 200,
Yeah.
300, 400.
Are they both born today, or are they both born 2,000 years ago?
No, it's us because it's today.
It's us. Okay,
Right.
so I was born 33 years
Dude,
ago. Do I die today, or do I die in 930?
You're so sick of yourself by
6
your
years.
749.
Like, I'm so cynical and I'm 27. Like, I don't know what I would be when I'm 900.
You could live.
Like, I would either be a saint or the worst person on the planet.
But you
Which
could
I
go.
guess-
You could go through being the worst person on the planet and still have 500
true.
years of being.
You
a
could
saint.
run yourself
could
through the
reinvent
gutter,
yourself
just
probably
coke and
several
hookers, and just for like 20 years, and then
Your
Oh,
backslide
dude.
period lasts like 150 years.
and then be awesome
Yeah.
Yeah.
for another 600.
All right, you convinced me.
It's got to be Methuselah. Right? All right. I think with that we're all want to be like crack prostitutes and for 20 years, just so that we can have 950 years of awesome
Christian
life.
living.
Here's the thing. Did Methuselah know he was going to live that long?
How many?
No.
Gabe brought it. He said to me, he's like, but then you always will see everybody you have ever loved die. And I said, that might happen now. Like, I don't know. Like, that literally could happen. It's still a possibility. Everybody I've ever loved, I will watch die.
We could leave this podcast. All our families are dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that
we need another would you rather.
We need one more would you rather? Be Gideon with an army of 300 against 135,000. Or Joshua trusting that just walking around and shouting will bring the walls down.
It's like 2 levels of insane. Like,
Yeah,
I go full bore with the walking around.
Yeah.
Because
You go all in with the walking around.
Maybe they'll think like, it's an idiot. Let's not kill him. He's just walking around.
But even with the 300, you can maybe strategically go, okay, I know this. Okay, we have all this skill set. If we flank him here, like and do this,
Gideon.
yeah.
Just because I have some army, like Joshua had to tell all of the Israelites, like, okay, here's what we're gonna do for like a week.
Yeah, you look like the world's stupid. Like I can't, people walking behind him like, I can't believe we're doing this.
Yeah,
like, this guy is
for
a
a week,
and they're planning like, okay, so when the wall doesn't come down and those people are gonna ready to shoot at us, this is how I'm running away. Like
we're gonna use Joshua for the battery.
Yeah, we get Joshua first and we put him in front.
First we kill that dude. Then we try to get the hell out of here.
I'm going with Gideon.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, Dan, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
If you guys, people who are listening, if you have any questions or any comments, please hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us there. Download any previous versions of the episode on iTunes, Google Play, or visit roastedchristian.com. Thanks for listening. This has been the Roasted Christian Podcast. Thank you again.
You're Bobby.
So thanks
I'm
for
John.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Bobby. You're John. Thanks for listening.
You're welcome.